So today, the 400 in track, the 400 meter in track, you have to be fast, you have to be quick, it's explosive. One of the most explosive events there are in track. So, when you're running the 400, you're going to need a couple things. First being big hip rotators. The bigger your hip rotators are, the more power you can generate. When you have more power generated from your hip rotators, the more output. Now there's a problem that comes with that. The bigger your hip rotators are, the faster you burn out, but the more power you can generate, like a bigger engine essentially. So you have two circles here, 1 and 2. This first circle being a big hip rotator, you can generate more power, everything's moving, but it costs more energy, opposed to say a small one. So if you're running long distance, say the 10,000 meter, 5,000 meter, you want smaller hip rotators, opposed to hip flipping, opposed to bigger ones. The bigger they are, the more power, but when it comes to more power, comes more energy burn off. That's the drawback. So when you're running, say, the 400, you want relatively large hip rotators. Now, when you're moving, this plays a giant factor in how you run. Because when you're moving at such large speeds, you generate large velocity. So, if you're moving at such large velocity, a couple things. Form, technique, and the most important, acceleration. Now, there's a difference between form and technique. Technique and form separate just based on this. When you get fatigued and tired in the race, your form plays a factor, how well you can hold your form. Technique is something that you practice on and how well you repetition it. And then it falls into your form. If you have proper form and technique, you should be alright. The only problem is the third factor, acceleration. Where does your acceleration slow down and pull back? Because you will hit max velocity at some point in time. And depending on your VO2 max will determine how much more you can accelerate or what you'll taper off and cut off. So, when you're moving at these speeds, you want to top off. In the 400, I'm not going to tell you how to run the 400, I'm just going to tell you what you need. Because everyone's different, you can have different coaches. It doesn't matter who you are, everyone has their own point of view. But what you need in the 400, this is across the board what you do need. Not how to run it, but what you need. And I said it before, form, technique, and acceleration. Those three factors will determine if you win or lose the race. Now, we'll start from the beginning, and then we'll work our way towards the end, right? As you take off from the blocks, technique in the blocks, very important. That first 100 meters, 150 meters, very important. So when you break out the block, they have the slow graph. You want to stay low and then slowly build up. Everyone knows that. It's like that. You start out here, and then as you break out the block, you slowly come up and slowly rise. That's fair. Pretty common knowledge. But essentially, the lower you can stay to the ground, the longer it'll take. But the upside to it is, the longer it takes you, the better in this first part. Because the lower you stay, the longer you stay to the ground. Because you want to be quick. The first part of the race is not about being fast, it's about being quick. And there's a difference. If I go like this, and move my hand back and forth, and I start doing it fast, that's different opposed to if I move like this. This is quicker than this. Due to the fact, if I'm tapping this, if I'm touching this, right, that's fast, but it takes longer opposed to touching it very quickly. And you want to be touching the ground very quickly. Especially on those first 4 to 5 steps. Quickness. Now, if we move into speed, after you break out of that rhythm and you start going up and you start rising, your acceleration starts coming in. And you're going from 0 to 15 to 100, and you're going to taper off at wherever. However your coach wants you to run it, right? Every runner is different. But your hip flexors and your hip rotators. Now, when you're moving, you're gaining that momentum. There's a couple exercises you can do to get bigger hip flexors and big. We'll talk about that at the end. As you're coming around the track, you start burning off around the 200 and the 300 mark. When you're starting to burn off, you start getting tired. 250, you start feeling it. 300, you're really feeling it. Now, from the last, I think this is very important. The last 100 yards is all heart. Last 100 meters, all heart. Now, before that, it's technique and form will come into play because technique starts breaking down when you start getting tired, especially. So this is where your form comes in. Perfect 90 degrees, chin down, stomach in, strong abs. You don't want to start arching your back, right? That's the breakdown. You want to keep it in, tucked in, shoulders forward. You want to keep that stride movement. Because when you start breaking here, you start getting a bow in your back, right here, right? So if I'm a straight person, if I'm standing straight, you don't want this bow. Because this is your stomach right here, and this is your head. When you start having that bow take place, it messes with your form, and it's no longer straight. Now, as we're moving through, and you're pressing there, pressing, and you're pushing your form. However your coach wants you to, talk to him about your form, technique. Now, get to the last 100. That's all hard. That's, at the end of the day, that's hard. But the last 10 meters is far more important. It's a head-to-head race. This is where running IQ comes in. You lean with your head. You see it all the time in the Olympics, photo finishes. Some guys forget to lean. It's always important. You lean with your head. When you lean with your head, it gives you forwardness. Now, you don't want to lean too quickly. You lean at those last 4 to 5 steps because you'll have quick momentum, but then you'll lose it right away. That's important that you don't lean too soon. If you lean too soon, your form gets jacked up and you lose speed and acceleration. So you lean at the very end, last 4 or 5 steps. That's when you lean. And that will allow you to get the edge over somebody with the head photo finish, opposed to, say, a chest or a leg. Because in track, majority of the time, it's always the head that counts. You go head down. So if their foot crosses, but your head crosses before their head, usually that's how you win. If your head crosses the line, say it's a photo finish, their foot's on the line, your head's over it, they go with your head. So, little running IQ, right? But you got to look at the rules for your race. But here in the States, most races, tracks, that's how it goes down. Now, developing, as I said, developing your hip rotators and your hip flexors, you need a couple things. So here's a couple exercises you can do. First one being, this is a great one. You want strong hamstrings, all right? We'll get into the hip flexors here in a second. But the most important thing, besides just having big hip flexors and hip rotators, is having strong hamstrings. If you don't have strong hamstrings, your body will compensate when you're starting to really put on the pedal. And then that's when you start pulling hamstrings. See guys all the time at the Olympics grabbing the back of their leg. It's because when they're sprinting very hard, they're compensating. And their form breaks down and they start using their hamstrings instead of firing from the quads or somewhere else. Just a tip. In order to get strong hamstrings, do Nordics or even hamstring curls. Those are very important. Now, back to the hip flexors. So a couple of things. It depends. If you have a monkey's foot, it's this workout tool called a monkey's foot, and you use that to build acceleration, that will build your hip flexors by tenfold. Now, go very light with that. With the monkey foot, you want to do very light. Another tool that you can use is pistol squats. Pistol squats, one-legged pistol squats, those will take you a long ways. I was at a track camp in Oregon, and they had this old guy, I can't remember his name, but he ran with Steve Prefontaine, and he came out and showed us that exercise, pistol squat, and it's very effective. It helps out a lot. So pistol squats is one way to get bigger hip flexors, along with the monkey's foot. If you're using that, that's pretty much it. That's all I can think of. I mean, yeah, sure, you have flexibility, mobility, that'll take you so far, but doing those key exercises, pistol squats, along with a monkey's foot, those take you miles. Those will make your hip flexors. It will hurt, but that'll just be the growth. That's all we have today for the 400.